Before independence, this rank was called assistant inspector. It was called assistant inspector. Although during that time, the badge of rank was a 5-star. If you know the American star, you can Google Captain America. You'll see the 5-star American type is what the assistant inspectors used to put on before independence. Upon Kenya becoming independent in 1963, or we can call it 1964, they started putting on a military pattern star, 1, which they called sub-inspector. Now, if you ask me, I prefer the rank being retained, and I prefer the rank being called sub-inspector. So assistant inspector was renamed, just like in some countries we have second lieutenant, and others they call it sub-lieutenant, the same name. That is being called assistant inspector, and sub-inspector is just the same name. Although, as I've said, I'd rather the name be used as sub-inspector. Now, a sub-inspector is a rank below. Sub-inspector is a rank below inspector. For you to move from sub-inspector to inspector, it has to be a promotion. Now, when it went on that way, sub-inspector was that way until 1972. In 1972, it was scrapped. And also in 1972, the rank of assistant superintendent was scrapped. So when somebody became a police inspector, he or she just got 2 pips straight. 2 pips straight. That was until 1984. But between 1972 to 1984, a period of a dozen years, if you became an inspector, you'd either join. There were 3 types of inspectors to join. There was, or even 4. First of all, we had a rank that was called acting temporary inspector. Acting temporary inspector. That one used to put on the uniform of subordinate police officers, but the cape, the head badge, the head dress would be the blue one for subordinate police officers, and the badge would be pinned on a cloth where somebody would wear, meaning that is a temporary inspector who is just acting there, and he knows, and everybody knows, that if he goes on transfer or if he goes on leave, he reverts back to his former rank. These were occasions when you'd find a police station that the NCOs were illiterate, and we had a Form 4 corporal or constable. And you see there are some things like even charge and caution. Charge and caution are given by inspectors and above. So this one would be made a temporary inspector. So it used to be called acting temporary inspector for the purpose of having a member of inspectorate there. When the inspector returns from leave or anything, or another one is posted, or even this particular police officer goes on leave, the position that he would come back in his former rank. We used to have some of them spend 3 or even 4 years without going on leave until an inspector comes, because he knows if he goes home, he'll come back in the former rank. But when the inevitable comes that an inspector is brought, then he goes home for the leave for the period he has not been going on leave. That is acting temporary. Then there was the acting permanent. Acting permanent was an inspector who had attended inspector's course and had been appointed as an inspector on probation. And during that probation, he had only 2 conditions to do. Condition number 1, he had to have a non-disciplinary issues during that time. And two, you'd have a non-disciplinary cases. And two, he had to clear the inspectorate exams, which today are called police law exams. Upon clearing the police law exam and upon clearing 6 months, he or she can at any time be now promoted to the rank of, this is just an NCO who is acting as an inspector. So the confirmation, we call it confirmation, but the letter will say promotion. You have been promoted to the rank of inspector. During the 1972 to 1984, those 12 years, acting permanent inspector and a confirmed inspector used to put on the same. You would never know. Except there are some things like the ceremonial uniform, the blue, acting inspector would not get it. Then we have somebody who was called cadet inspector. Cadet inspector is somebody from tertiary who joined the police at the rank of inspector. That one also used to put on like the inspector. You'd find in one police station there are about 4 police inspectors, and all of them have different terms of services. There is one who is acting temporary, but I think when there are other inspectors, they will not place the acting temporary. There was an inspector who was acting temporary, there was acting permanent, there was the cadet inspector, and then there was the confirmed inspector. You would not know until anybody told you. But the problem here is if you have a disciplinary, a person like acting temporary, when he went on leave or on transfer, he would revert to his rank automatically. But acting permanent, if he had any disciplinary offenses, which are serious, but not as serious as criminal, he would be reverted. Acting temporary would revert without any disciplinary issues. But acting permanent, if there is a disciplinary issue, he'll revert back to his former rank, acting permanent. Cadet inspector, this one from tertiary, if he has disciplinary issues, he goes back to civilian life. Permanent inspector, of course, is a member of the inspectorate, and so anything to do with him will be handled as per the 4 standing order. Nowadays, it's called service standing orders that dictate so. That was between 1972 to 1984. 1984, January 1st, a new order came. All the acting, first of all, 1984, they silently removed the acting temporary inspectors. I think inspectors were becoming too many that the acting temporary inspector just died a natural death. Acting temporary. Acting permanent, they continued. I also was an acting permanent inspector for over a year. But the force headquarters said that from 1st January 1984, all acting permanent inspectors, and cadet inspectors would henceforth start putting on one PIP like the one which has been there. That was in 1984. It continued that way until the year around 2020 or 2021 is when this rank was removed. And it was removed this way, that National Police Service Commission said that any inspector who is either a cadet officer or an inspector who has gone through promotion should act as an inspector for quite some period and then be confirmed and be made two PIPs. But then, as Kiganjo was fulfilling that condition, and Kiganjo and GSU training school, anybody attending inspector promotion course would be appointed acting inspector with one PIP for quite some time. Would be appointed as an acting inspector with one PIP for quite some time until he fulfilled or she fulfilled certain conditions. But what APTC, uh, Administration Police Training College, Embakasi did was every student every student who completed the inspectorate course was given 2 PIPs straight away. And if they meet in the field, the AP would look to be superior than the GSU or other. So that is how this PIP was removed. And I can tell you, it used to be very beautiful. It is more beautiful than even 2 PIPs. There are jokes we were even saying that we would want to stay for a long time with 1 PIP so that you just move from 1 PIP to 3 PIPs if you are promoted to chief inspector. With those few remarks, now you understand sub inspector. Thank you.